Hi, this is a brief refresher on things that you have to bear in mind when you are gonna start typing data in a small database in Excel. So the first thing that you always have to do is just look really carefully at your source and have a look at the different variability. Here I'm showing you some different examples of my death certificates where I have all the information. So the first thing that I would do is just go and open an Excel spreadsheet and just try to start with the codebook. So I would just label something codebook, and then I start writing all the things that I want to be recorded and in the format. So let's say, for instance, name, surname, and then I would just write to myself that is a text, and this is also text. So for instance, if we were to have ages, something that you could do, remember that we have to go with the idea that each concept should go in a different cell, and we never mix information on a text format or in numeric. So for instance, if you have ages and they're going to come in different ways, some of them in weeks, some of them in days, some of them in months, maybe a good choice would be to say age in days, age in months, age in years, and maybe if you also think that it's going to come in weeks, let's put it here, 18 weeks. And then I would just write a number in each of those, and I would only write numbers whenever each of this. If some other type of unit was used, maybe then you would also decide on having all that other unit. Other things that you could just have to type in are dates, and I would recommend you always to do separately. So day, day birth, for instance, month birth, year birth, or the same thing you would have with dates. So, and I would write also as numbers. There is a very easy function where you then can combine the information of these three columns into just one date, and I think that it makes more easy to tap from one of the columns to the other. There's many different things that can appear, but for instance, for addresses, I would always write the type of road, the type of way, let's say. That would be also a text in which I would write something like street or avenue or things like that. So this is where I would write these different things. Then the actual name of the street would also be a text, and then the number of the street, maybe the floor, and then sometimes I also put something called qualifier because you find often things like the back door or the across the porch and things like that, and I like them to keep them separate, so then it's easier to fill in full. I would generally put also a text, and number of the street should be a text too, because most of the times you're going to find, like, sometimes you find 1 to 3 or 5 to 7 instead of really giving you just a number. Well, names and surnames, we've already put them. If you have something like titles, also it should go in a different field, like doctor, captain, things like that. Occupation is very important, and then sometimes if you have occupation, it has to be a text. Everything has to be a text. You could have more than one occupation, so it would be very interesting to write occupation 2 if you tend to have more than one occupation, so as you can actually keep them separately and know that one thing is a captain and another is sort of workman or something like that. Other things that would also look like text would be, let's say, religion, and place of birth and things like that. Place of birth. Additional dates could be also placed as day death, day month death, year death, for instance, and then there would also be numbers, and numbers. Let's forget that one. And something like marital status is always common. That would always put a text. So beyond this, just defining what type of variables you're going to use, something also quite interesting would be to define if you're going to use some codes. I've told you that you shouldn't classify things as you go because you may not know things and then you can classify things wrongly. But something that is kind of safe to do would be something like, also sex. You'd be text. Some things like sex or marital status that you don't really need to write male or female all the time. Although Excel helps you out writing male and female, but you could just say M is going to be male and F is going to be female, or in Danish it would be M and K. Or marital status, also you could decide that S is going to be single, M is going to be married. You're going to have also S for separated. I use E for in command, but you can decide what you would like to do with all of those. The codeboard helps you to start writing up what are going to be your main decisions, and then keep to them. So now it looks really horrible, but then as you start building up the information, you would actually start writing more and more information on the kind of things that you have to bear in mind when you type data in. It is important that you just write these things very carefully, and any things and change are written in here. I would always have something like it says like notes where I start my archive work started blah 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 blah, and in this date something happened and other things, so you can keep is like a message for yourself or your future self. So once basically that I would have finished to do this kind of pre-work conceptual, I would take my variables to a place where I would actually write them. Oops, it didn't transpose well. Transpose them. Oh, I just got completely transposed. So and then I would actually use them as and I will start putting data. Remember the ID, we didn't put it, and then we can create an autonumeric in a very easy way. So we just do this, and then Excel understand that it's going to create a cumulative number, and then I could start writing some data, Dr. Revuelta, and then I'll put my age in some unit, and then I would put my date of birth, and then I would start working on data. I would always keep the information here and then all these notes, and as you've seen, I would just write codebook, and then I would start this file was started blah blah blah, and then I would write myself why did I decide it, which was the sample size, why was the choice, which was the research question, and all the different things that I come across while doing my research, and then that I'm gonna forget the moment that I go on vacation or that I stop working for a couple of days on this. So in general, all kind of rules of data entry and all kind of weird things that you find at the archives, and then probably you're not gonna remember when you're actually typing the file. I think that's about it what I talked about in class, but if you have some more questions, just let me know and then I'll try to answer them. Good luck.